Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mother Knows Death. Let's get started with the story of the week. Okay, first, what is the most shocking or horrible cosmetic procedure you could think of?
Oh God.
For me, they're all horrible, obviously. Save my needle
because most of them involve needles.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just there's certain things that I see that I'm like, I definitely would never get that. I don't really fear any procedures themselves, but I definitely fear what people look like after they have certain procedures. So I don't know if I could really pick one that I think is more horrific than the next. I feel like I've had some pretty horrific things done.
Well, for me, one of the worst ones is the vampire facials, where we've talked about this before, because remember there was like that salon doing it illegally. So they basically...
Oh, and the people were getting HIV.
Yes. So they like take your blood and then use like a microneedle and put it back in your face, and it supposedly rejuvenates your skin on your face. And I remember Kim Kardashian had gone viral for posting about her getting it done because it looks disgusting. And for me, with like blood and needle issues, it was a horrific picture to see. Well, now you can get this procedure done on your vagina.
Yeah. Do you know what the official name of it is called? A vampire wing lift. And what they do is they take your blood, they spin it down. So your blood is, even though it looks like, think of it as being like salad dressing, right? Even though it looks red and liquidy, it's mixed up with cells, which are the solid portion, and the liquid portion, which is plasma. And when they spin it down in the centrifuge, they take the plasma and then they mix it with hyaluronic acid, and then they inject it into your labia to make it look more plump and full.
Yeah, I was wondering at first if this was like remember I had told you this story a couple of weeks ago, how I got invited to this like influencer event where they were doing vajacials, and I'm like, I'm good. This is like a vampire vajacial. I'm not really interested in messing with anything down there. But, you know, this one lady that the article referenced is extremely satisfied with her results. So I guess it's for some people.
How old was she? Do you remember? Because
I think she was
I feel like
her
she was
early
a little
50s, right?
Yeah, I'm just curious because like right now I don't like look at my labes and think like, hey, they need to be plumped up. But maybe, I don't know, that might happen when I'm like 60 or something. So I'm not going to talk shit on it because I might be interested in the future. I don't know.
Well, we also had that story last week saying all these people were getting cosmetic procedures down there because they want to try to, you know, mimic like what porn stars are looking like. So I wonder if this is going to be added into those other... What was that called? A labiaplasty?
Yeah, but this is better because it's less invasive.
Yeah.
It's not surgery. It's just injections. Although I don't know. After having natural childbirth 3 times, I really don't want somebody sticking a needle like anywhere near my vag. But yeah, I'm gonna go on and look later to see if there's before and after photos, so I could really make a full assessment.
Well, I also like I just cannot imagine getting any procedure done down there because like obviously I haven't given birth or anything yet, but like even if you just like nick yourself with a razor when you're shaving, it is probably the worst or most uncomfortable pain ever. So I can't imagine doing a whole microneedling.
If you think that's bad, then
obviously
I'm just gonna sit back with my popcorn and
obviously childbirth hurts really bad. I know what's coming, but I'm just saying like
no, you don't know what's coming.
To voluntarily,
you don't understand. Like it's nothing that anybody can describe except I could say that it feels like there's a strong man on each one of your legs and just ripping your body in half while you're still alive. That's pretty much like what most women would describe it as feeling like, without drugs, of course.
No, that's fine. I can't imagine like voluntarily wanting to do this like micro needling procedure down there. Like giving birth, you're at least like getting a child out of the situation. You've made a new life. It's like worth.
Yeah, but you're getting nice plump labia out of it with this.
I don't know.
I had the laser hair done. I only had it done a couple times, so I didn't even get it like all the way done. You know what I mean? And it's very, because you have a lot of nerve endings
Yeah.
down there and stuff. It's just it's very sensitive area. So it hurts. But I mean, I feel like it was worth it because now I don't really have to shave. Like it's awesome. It really worked. And I mean, it was painful and it looked like a hive of bees like attached my vulva. But now it looks nice.
All right, TMI.
All right, celebrity news.
If you heard that Ariana Grande was asked who her dream celebrity or dream dinner guest would be, dead or alive, like who would you think it would be?
I'm sure it's somebody that's really fucking annoying because she's really fucking annoying.
I'd only imagine it's like, she's a musician, she was an actress. I would only assume it would be like an old Hollywood person, maybe somebody she looked up to growing up and inspired her career and everything. No, it was Jeffrey Dahmer, the cannibal serial killer.
Well, the best is that she was telling this story. Apparently, someone asked her at an event for children. It was children she was talking in front of. And then she asked their parents, like, is it okay if I really say? I mean, it's kind of weird. And she says it in front of children. Like, that was her dream. That's who she dreamed about having a lunch or dinner date with, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, so not only did she say this at an event for children, that was years ago when she said that at that event for kids. She brought it up when she was on a podcast like a week or two ago and said how she told the story and how she understands it's weird and everything, but that was her answer. And she finds Jeffrey Dahmer very fascinating. She's very intrigued by serial killers. Obviously, this isn't being received well by a lot of people, especially the victims, his victims, and their families. So, I don't know. I think those are things you can say, like, if you're at dinner with your friends, you want to make these weird admissions. Like, I'm really into true crime and everything. I would be interested in what this person has to say. But maybe when you're, like, a really public figure, you don't go multiple times and keep repeating yourself.
I just think that really it's just weird. Like let's say, for example, last week, one of the questions of the week, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, whatever, was like, what serial killer would you like to interview, right? And then I sit there and say, okay, let me think about that, right? Because I think everybody could say that they have some kind of interest and fascination with serial killers. But when you say any person in the world, and especially when you're in a room with children, it's like, it's kind of weird to me that would be the first thing that would come up.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh,
it's not
Elvis,
like who was your yeah, it's not like who was your favorite serial killer. Like, what serial killer would you want to have lunch with? Then okay, Jeffrey Dahmer. You're in a room with adults. Like, nobody would even think twice about that. But it's just situational. It's just a little weird.
Yeah,
and I don't like her at all.
Well,
like she's annoying as shit. Like, she's on some show called Victorious before she became famous, I guess. And her voice is so annoying. And every mom that I'm friends with that has kids that watch that show just like are so irritated with her.
Well, she's like allegedly a homewrecker too, about
and
her
she's a homewrecker
boyfriend situation.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm just like, I'm already not a fan. And I'm like, this chick is such a flake. I can't.
That guy is like, I don't know. I don't see what
doesn't he play SpongeBob
like on Broadway? He's
yeah,
not
but he kind of
looks SpongeBob.
No, I know, but like
SpongeBob.
He looks like a human version of what SpongeBob would look like, probably. So it's really good casting.
Yeah.
I guess.
So basically, SpongeBob was married and like just had a kid, and then started working on Wicked with Ariana Grande, and then they like had an affair, and he left his wife and child for her, and now they're together, and she just doesn't care at all. So it's weird.
She wrecks homes, and she wants to have dinner with serial killers.
And keep bringing it up in the media for the poor families of these victims to keep reliving over and over again. So. Exactly. Like a couple weeks ago, somebody asked us which serial killer we would interview or if we would interview one. Like, we're responding to a question that's specifically not like, oh, our dream guest would be like Brian Kohberger. Like, that's ridiculous.
All right, let's get on the freak accidents.
I'm having a hard time visualizing how this went down. So this lady and her family were just chilling at the beach. I guess it was a really windy day. their umbrella just totally ripped out of the ground and impaled her leg.
Listen, I've wrote about this in the grocery room several times that there's like 3,000 accidents a year that involve beach umbrellas.
Oh my God.
Because I know it sounds alarming, but think about it. Like the stick usually has like a corkscrew thing at the bottom so you could dig it into the sand, right?
Yeah.
It's essentially like a harpoon that has a parachute on it that like flies through the air with the wind and stabs people. Someone last year actually died. She got impaled in the chest and died. Remember we covered that before when we were doing this podcast in the grocery room? We covered it. It was like last September or something.
That's just some like total Final Destination situation. It's just so horrible. Imagine you're just like on vacation and you see this go down. Wait, we didn't even get to the worst part, which was after it was in her leg, it just kept blowing around. So the first responders that got to the scene had to use bolt cutters to like detach the canopy part of the umbrella so it would stop catching under the wind and moving around. So not only are you impaled in the leg, but then it just keeps moving around and stuff too. So you can't even just like sit there while they figure out how to get it out. It must have been horrible.
That's common. Like Gabe says that to me, that they have to do that. Like when a person's hand is cut in a machine or something, they have to like detach them so they could bring them to the hospital. And obviously, like having a huge beach umbrella hanging off your leg is going to make it a little bit more bulkier to get to the hospital. So
yeah, I would say so.
Nuts.
All right, we've talked a lot about Teslas on the show before, but this next story kind of makes me never even want to go inside of one. I don't know if you feel the same way. So this grandmother was just, being a cute grandma, trying to take her granddaughter to the zoo. She puts the granddaughter in her car seat in the back seat of her Tesla, closes the door, and then as she goes to get in the driver door, it won't open. So no matter what, her car key and the app are not opening the car door because apparently the car died, didn't alert her at all that it died, and when it dies, the batteries in the doors also die, and they don't let you in the car at all. So...
And this was in Scottsdale, Arizona, so
like the hottest place ever in the United States.
I guess there's something with this extreme heat deactivating the batteries or I don't know, but the woman said that it was fully charged, so it shouldn't have happened. And I'm sure in the grand scheme of things, like all of the people that own cars like this, they don't have these kinds of problems. Like we just hear about the few that happen. But she called the fire department and then they showed up and were like, these cars are kind of hard to get into.
Yeah.
So she was like, I don't care if you have to cut this car in half. Like, you have to get my granddaughter out of the car right now.
Yeah.
So they broke the window and they were able to do that.
So I will say she was super smart, calling 911 immediately and getting them to take care of it. And they did get the child out safely. But as I was reading the article, it seems like this is like not such a rare occurrence with Teslas. So a couple people were saying they were in their car and we just went to get out wherever they parked and got stuck because the door wouldn't open. But one lady found out there's like some emergency latch in the door, but it's kind of hidden, so you wouldn't just know that looking around. She found it when she was looking in the app. Again, that lady was stuck on a over 100-degree day, and she started freaking out. I feel like if I couldn't get out in like 2 minutes, I'd just call the police, because what are you supposed to do?
So Gabe was telling me something kind of interesting that I never really thought about. He was just saying, like, because he's been a fireman for almost 25 years now. So he was saying, like, as time goes on, it's harder and harder for them to break into cars easily they have a tool that normally could just get someone out if the car is stuck. So he said that especially now that like all of these people are getting super tinted windows and even tinted windshields, he's like, we can't even see inside the car to see how it works. And if you don't have a Tesla, you don't really know how a Tesla works, like the door, the lock situation and everything. So he was telling me that they have some kind of tool that could put, a fine hole in there and not cause it to, which is probably what they used in this case. So the glass didn't get on the kid and everything. But I'm glad that they got her out, because I'm sure even though it was the morning, they've been reaching temperatures over 100 degrees. I mean, that could get ugly really fast.
So I read that they taped the full window and then they used an axe. So when they broke through it, the tape would like stick onto the glass so it wouldn't shatter everywhere in the car and hit the kid.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, like Gabe and I were both saying this. Like, if the kid's in the back, let's say left seat, then go to the front right one and break the window. It's not gonna.
Yeah.
He said the tool they have makes it fall, like the glass fall. It wouldn't like go outwards.
Yeah.
So he's like, you just try to pick the window furthest away from the kid. And God knows what that repair is going to cost her. And she really should be able to get that reimbursed by Tesla, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. And I also saw like later in the article, there was some criticism that the first responders need to be trained better with Teslas. And that's not their problem, in my opinion, that this car is a weird car and they can't get in it like as easily as other vehicles.
The thing is that not this particular situation, but the fires associated with them are kind of everyone's problem because they have all, they're not as easy to put out of the fire as a normal car would be because it's not fueled by gasoline, you know. And it is just like a different. The fire burns hotter. They have a difficult time putting it out, so they do need to probably have more training as far as what to do the more these cars increase. I think that most fire departments know what to do, but more so of having the resources to put these fires out because it's expensive and there's different ways to attack these fires. So I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, I'm going on this bachelorette trip in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And everybody's like talking about how they want to do a hike. And we all know I don't go outside. So I'm out on that.
You're going to the Poconos. It's like made for hiking.
Well, this guy went on a hike for 3 hours and got lost for 9 days. So what is enticing about going hiking at all?
Because you're going to be with adults and you all have a phone, so yeah, but probably one of them will work.
If everybody's phone doesn't work because there's no service up there, it doesn't matter if you're one person or like 9 people. You could still all.
This happened to me once. During COVID, I took my girls who were very little at the time, maybe only 6 and 7 or 5 and 7. They were pretty young, with the neighbors across the street who were a little bit older. But like I had 4 kids and I was by myself in the woods, and I went on a hike, and then we must have went up like one of these side like trails that wasn't the main trail. And I was like so lost. And then my GPS wasn't working at all. So I couldn't even like figure out how to get back. It was like a little sketch, and it was like 3:00. So it was approaching. Oh my God, if I'm lost for a couple hours, it's going to be dark and I'm going to be in the woods with 4 kids and 2 of them aren't even mine. But we ended up finding our way out, and then I finally got service and called Gabe. But yeah, it was like kind of scary. I see how it could happen, especially if you're even used to doing it. If you just turn the wrong way, like all I could see were trees and the sky.
Yeah.
And I don't know like how to read the sun to see which direction I'm in and all that shit. Like I don't understand that. So I was in a shitty situation like really fast, you know?
This is the problem here. So this guy decided he was going to go on like a few hour hike. He didn't tell anybody he was going on a hike, and his family didn't realize he was missing for 5 days when he didn't show up for Father's Day, right? So they're like looking for this guy, and meanwhile, he's just lost in the Santa Cruz mountain trails, doesn't know where to go. And he was drinking out of the creek and eating wild berries, which is a gamble in itself because some of those could be like really horrible for your body. He claimed that he had a mountain lion trailing him the entire time, but he kept his distance, so it was okay. But
he was filling the creek water up in his boot, which it's kind of creative actually.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I mean, you could, as long as you're drinking water, I mean, you have all these other things that could happen, like weird algae and bacteria that you could drink, but as long as you're drinking water, you could live without food for a while, especially if he was like a normal nourished person.
Yeah.
I mean, like weeks you could live without food. So it's the most important thing in that situation is just to make sure that you're getting liquid like that, and you have and he was in a perfect place to have access to it.
Yeah, totally. So after the whole time he was searching, trying to get out, and then he was screaming for help at certain points of the day. At one point people heard him screaming, but it was in the distance. So they called the cops, and they were able to use drones to locate him and rescue him safely. kind of.
It's so not.
It is.
He didn't have a phone, or was he like an older guy? Or
I feel like I didn't see any mention of a phone or something happened to it or it wasn't working or something.
yeah,
Or he didn't have service.
it's
like,
just not. It's not smart to do that. But I think when you go to the Poconos, you can go. But listen, I'm serious. There's like waterfalls there and stuff that you could walk on. Like it's essentially a boardwalk that takes you there. You're in the woods, but you're walking on a boardwalk. You don't even have to touch dirt. Like
yeah.
think you'll be all right.
Yeah. But at least he was rescued and he's all safe now and reunited with his family. But he was lost for a total of 9 days after
Nuts.
intending to be gone for 3 hours. I don't think I'll be joining the hike on said trip. But okay, this next one. So an old man was just simply crossing the street, but of course the sign said do not walk, and he went anyway, and then a truck happened to be turning a corner at the same time, plowed into him, and ended up decapitating him.
Well, before we found out who it was, the guy who hit him was devastated. Like
Yeah.
he got out of the car right away because he was from the Department of Transportation, and he was like having a meltdown, obviously, because he just killed a person.
Yes.
And when he found out probably who this guy was, I wonder what his feeling was.
Yeah, so he was identified as this guy named Tony Cakes, who was a former
Tony Cakes.
He was a former capo with the Genovese crime family in New York. He had been indicted years ago for being a captain in this like huge organized crime family, and he had this like criminal history. It's nuts. So yeah, he probably doesn't feel bad now that he knows he like killed this mob guy, right?
No, he's probably freaking the fuck out because he killed a mob guy. I don't think he cares anyway. I think he's just like, holy shit, I killed like a really important person that like in a family that usually kills people for doing things like this.
Did you pull the best quote ever from this article from the cop?
Oh, the one? Yes, that says, he spent his life looking over his shoulder, but he forgot to look both ways before crossing the street.
Exactly. So
Genius.
Genius line. It's very important to always look both ways when you're crossing the street. We're always telling the kids this, and apparently this 86-year-old man totally forgot. But yeah, he's Tony Cake's former capo, so I don't know. I feel bad for the guy who was just, simply driving, and then it's like double whammy. First, you killed a person and you just feel so horrible about that because it was an accident, you didn't mean to do it. Double whammy is former mob guy, so now you're just like, oh my god, are they gonna come after me?
He's gonna have a horse's head amputated on his front doorstep.
No, he's gonna have to go
end of this week.
He's gonna have to go into witness protection.
Witness.
What an unfortunate situation on all ends.
It really is.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
The Gross Room is really awesome. You guys should check it out. We always talk about cases here, and there's some posts in The Gross Room. We have one about the beach umbrella deaths and injuries. We have there's always something that goes along with one of the stories we're talking about. Decapitation, you interested in seeing it? We have that. Anything. So it's a really good place to, because if you like hearing about these stories, I know with me anyway, I would read these stories and my first thing is like, I want to see what this looks like, because it's like, imagine driving your car and running someone over and their head getting chopped off. It's just one of the most disturbing ways that you could see a human. So of course you want to see it in the Gross Room.
Well, I'll certainly be searching beach umbrella and
Impalement.
Impalements. I can't talk right now. You know what I'm saying. Because when we read that story, I'm just like, I could understand how it went down, but like I need to fully see something similar.
Oh, I have a lot of cases in the Gross Room of impalement. Just people, crazy stories about like a guy just driving and he was behind one of those big trucks that carries those giant tree logs, and he got in an accident and the tree log like went through his entire body, like a huge tree log. And he survived. It's just crazy the way that these things can just enter your body. And if it just misses the right thing, then you're going to be cool. But you should really see how crazy dramatic it is to see how the firefighters have to cut each end of the log and bring the person to the emergency room, and just think about a person alive just laying there with that huge sting throughout their body. So there's a bunch of cases that that I have in there. If you there's a search bar, just search impalement and they'll all come up. And you can join for only $5.99 a month.
Yeah, so visit thegrossroom.com for more info.
All right, let's get started on some true crime.
So we have an update about that 12-year-old boy who had died at that North Carolina camp. Remember, everything surrounding it was really suspicious and the camp wasn't cooperating.
Yeah, and didn't he die within 24 hours of being there or something?
And it's one of those horrible camps where, like wealthy parents pay somebody to like kidnap their bad kid in the middle of the night and drag them there, which is traumatizing in itself. And then this kid is not even there for a full 24 hours and ends up dead in this super suspicious manner.
So it appears after the autopsy and everything that he died from asphyxia, and it appears they put him in this special kind of sleeping bag called a bivvy.
So this bivvy literally looks like a camping version of a coffin.
It looks like a sarcophagus. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
Except where the head is, there's an opening that's mesh. It makes sense though. Like if you're sleeping in the woods and you're in an area with high mosquitoes, that you can kind of zip yourself up inside this thing and you could still breathe because there's mesh covering your face. But in this case, they put the kid in there against his will. He didn't want to be in there.
Yeah.
And then they wrapped plastic tarp around this sleeping bag thing, which covered the mesh, which caused him to not be able to breathe and die. And just think about, like, I don't care how bad this kid is. He's 12 years old.
I know.
And you're locking him inside of something like that. Like, it's like burying someone alive. It's so fucked up.
No, it's absolutely horrible. All former campers were saying they called it like being in the burrito. So they were like, they burritoed him at first, and then he was really wiggling around. This is according to the camp that's like barely cooperating. They said they put him in there. He was like freaking out in there, so they took him out for a little bit, and then they put him back in. And then when they went to check on him in the morning, he was dead. But
why this camp's allowed? This is child abuse.
What, he found like nude with his pants pulled down or something?
Yeah, he had, I think that this is the thing, because they found him in a bed or something. So somebody had to take him out of there and move him. But wasn't he like bent in half or something? There was something weird with the story, which made us...
wasn't he like in rigor, like in this weird position? So they were saying when they opened the bag, he had already been dead. But you're saying because of how he, like at the time he would have died, he wouldn't have been able to be like frozen essentially in that position that they found him.
No, he could have been. He could have been curled up inside of the thing because he was trying to get oxygen from some point of it. And then when he died, that's the position he was in. So then they moved his body. I mean, hours later, you wouldn't be in rigor right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you moved his body over there and he was stuck in that position, which is why that seemed suspicious. But my question is, in the article, it says, the North Carolina Attorney General is now considering charges against the camp. Like, what do you mean you're considering?
Yeah,
this is so outrageous.
So they did lose their license right after, but all these petitions are coming out now trying to get it shut down permanently. Like, it should be shut down permanently. Furthermore, this is not the first death that's occurred at this camp. A 17-year-old a couple years before had tried to run away and was found dead 2 weeks after he was reported missing at a creek. And that was really suspicious. And all these former campers are coming forward saying that they had horrible abusive experiences there. Some girl said she had been sexually assaulted by another camper there, had reported it, and they told her not to say anything. So that didn't get addressed. It's a whole mess. And, finally, like, you actually have to really credit Paris Hilton for bringing attention to these camps because she was sent to one and she's really actively trying to push legislation through in D.C. to get these banned forever.
I just can't even believe that they're a thing. And I actually can't even believe that any parent would send their kid to this.
No.
I mean, if your kid's acting up that much, they either need like mental health treatment or they just need better parents because you suck. Like... Well, why would the kid was 12 years old?
It seems more often than not, these are children of really wealthy families that the kids are probably raised by nannies and they don't want to deal with it. So they're just like, I'll just send them away. They think it's this like boarding school that's going to whip them into shape. And it ends up being these incredibly problematic, abusive camps. I mean, Netflix just had this big documentary come out about another one in New York that had schools all over, including in other countries.
I'm curious to watch it, but I really just like don't like seeing things when children are mistreated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just really upsetting. That's why I won't even watch like the Nickelodeon one and stuff. It's just like that's not my idea of entertainment when I'm not working. You know what I mean? It's just really upsetting.
But I agree with you. Like, I don't understand why the camp wouldn't be held responsible for this at all. I don't even understand how they could have the possibility of reopening after this. I mean, the coroner ruled it officially as homicide. It wasn't even like accidental.
If some parent did that to their child, they would lose custody of all their children and they would go to jail.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully they would anyway, I guess.
I don't know. The whole thing, I don't like it. I don't like the concept of these schools in general. At least all this stuff's coming out. Like, people don't even know these programs exist. So at least there's this awareness that these schools are out there now, and we could try to make changes and make sure they never exist again or don't continue on. But, all right, another douche that shouldn't be allowed near children. So this former high school teacher from Indiana was charged after he reportedly paid teenage boys to pee and ejaculate into water bottles. He was doing this in like the mid to late early 2000s. How do you even word that? Like the early 2000 to 2010. What do you that time period?
I don't know. I look this up from time to time and I don't really get a straight answer because it is really annoying because you're like 60s, 70s, 80s, and then you're like, oh, because you wouldn't say.
I think it's the early aughts is the correct way to say it.
Aughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard that before. Nobody says that. So you just have to say the full thing.
Yeah, so anyway, this guy was doing this around the time I was in like middle school and high school. So I'm like, putting myself in the scene, imagining how disgusting it is. So he's paying these boys to pee into water bottles, also telling them that they should do it after they have sex because there'll be traces of semen in it. He was buying used sneakers and clothes off of other boys. So essentially, he's being charged with like grooming them and doing devious sexual misconduct with these teenagers.
Well, just think about like a grown-up saying these things to a child. Like when you say, if some person came up to you right now and was like, hi, I'm going to pay you $20 if you give me a bottle with your urine in it, you would laugh, right? You would be like, yeah. And you would also be like, you're a fucking creep, right? This is what's so scary about the control that adults have over children, that they're able to go from being a trusted teacher. I think they were saying he was helping one of them with their college application. Well, a sophomore. So that's an old kid.
I think it's like you're targeting teenagers. Maybe you're like spending all this time figuring out if they're like from a low socioeconomic situation, or if they're struggling with like paying application. That's what it seemed like he was doing, like bribing them, like, I'll help you and pay for your college application fees if you do this for me or something. So
it's just so scary though that a kid that's like 15 years old, which is I mean, I know that their brains aren't developed and stuff, but you can convince them that this is okay and it went by for so long under the radar kind of. Well,
yeah,
not really, because apparently it happened and some person brought it to the school's attention and then the police department's attention that he was, what was it, paying children for urination in bottles?
Yeah, but this was in 2011. This is 13 years ago. So why is he just being charged now?
Well, because they didn't do anything about it at the time and then he continued to do it.
So
but
he goes on administrative leave, and it's just kind of like there's a situation at a school around here where something kind of similar happened and they just kind of brushed it under the rug, right? Where like something happened with like possible inappropriate conduct, and then the school just...
that's exactly what I thought of first, because I'm like, all of these students that went to this school, I guarantee you that their parents didn't know that one of the teachers at the school was put on administrative leave for paying children to urinate into bottles.
Just like at this school, like I don't think the parents were made aware at all. Like, the kids just come home and they're like, so-and-so got fired. And you don't know why. You don't know why somebody quits.
You don't. And then when you read stories like this, you're like, and like every other story in the world, the whole Catholic school scandals, Catholic Church scandal and stuff, it's like, this has been going on forever. And when you think about a man that is paying children to urinate into bottles, like that shit is weird. I don't care
Yeah.
what you try to put a spin on it. It means that he has some kind of like perverse sexual desires.
Exactly. And especially telling them like these teenagers, by the way, they're not like having sex as frequently as normal adults in most cases. So like,
Well, I think they're probably having sex more than adults.
no,
Come
I
on, they're
get that.
teenagers.
But like, he's encouraging them like go have sex and then pee immediately when you're done. So there's like some semen in it. Like it's just disgusting.
It is. I don't understand how he wasn't in trouble the first time. That's what's really disturbing about it.
He was also having some of the boys spit in his food. Like, this dude clearly has this, like, crazy sexual fetish or whatever, and it's, like, not forgivable at all.
Well, and he was drinking the urine.
I don't know what he was doing.
I mean, that's it. It sounds like it says that he was having sexual pleasure and gratification from ingesting urine and semen, and he desires to feel humiliated and degraded. Which is like, fine, bro. Desire to feel however you want, but
like,
don't
hire
involve kids.
A dominatrix. Like, don't be subjecting young children to your weird fetishes, you know? It's just totally unnecessary. I don't know. I really don't like how the school handled it, and I really don't like how the police handled it at the time.
No.
Like, I understand they, like, addressed it necessarily, but you need to tell the community what's going on. I'm sorry.
They never do.
We didn't end up covering the story, but, like, I saw that Amy Lochran, friend of the show, had posted that this new bill might go forward that's going to make hospitals, like hospital CEOs, responsible for cases like the Charles Cullen case happening, right? So I feel like this should be similar. Like, the school should be responsible if they're hiding a situation like this.
But they'll just always say, like, oh, it wasn't really as big of a deal as they thought.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, because they didn't. This is the thing. Like, when this was all happening with the teacher, they thought the worst thing in the world would be for that to come on the news, that there was a teacher there that was paying children to urinate into bottles for him. So instead, they just brush it under the rug, make them go away, and hope. And they didn't think it would come back out. That's the thing. Like, and guess what? Think about how many times shit like this happens and it doesn't come back out and we never know it. It could have happened when you were a kid, when I was a kid. Who knows? Your kids right now, you don't even know because so much shit is covered.
Well, I actually know something that happened at my school that I'll tell you off air, but that's not come out. And I found out just last year, but it was going on when I was there, so.
Yeah, well,
stuff happens.
My art teacher got arrested for being a pedophile, and I don't. That was crazy. Like, that was after I was a little bit older though, but he was still working at the school that I was at, and it's crazy to think about someone that you know like that and spent time with was doing that with other kids, and then you're like, God, did that happen to some of my friends? Because you don't know, like, it's not like the guy just started doing it 10 years after I was done, like,
this is not the first time this guy did it, and he certainly did not stop doing it after he got fired. So, It's disgusting. All right. A new book has come out taking a deeper dive into the Idaho murders.
So I was listening to this guy's interview on Nancy last night, and he was bringing up a couple of good points. One of which was, you know how I always have a theory that there's like more to this story?
Yeah.
So this kind of goes more into that maybe because this guy, he really digs deep into this guy's history of having, he had a heroin addiction at some point, and then he was very heavy. He lost a lot of weight. He lost like 100 pounds by himself. He had all this surgery done apparently to take away the excess skin. And he thinks that the next obsession, because he's like, when he was doing heroin, it was kind of like an obsession. Then he was doing this weight loss. It was obsession. So the next obsession was this school, going for criminology and stuff. And he posed it like maybe he was trying to commit the perfect crime that would not have been solved. So he purposely picked this beautiful girl that would get a lot of media attention, but she was in another town, so it was far enough away that he wouldn't be considered a suspect.
Yeah.
And that maybe he thought that he was going to pull off the perfect murder, and he would have liked the sensationalism around it. And that's because in this book, he claims that with all these interviews and stuff that he did, that he definitely thinks that one of the girls named Maddie was the target. Just because of the way the guy entered the house, he like entered the house and passed by all the other people first and kind of went back and killed them afterwards. And this author is just like, well, why would he not stop at the first bedroom he walked past if it was just a random act of violence? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he intentionally went to this one bedroom first. So he's making a lot of good points, but then on the other hand, the family members of the victims are kind of like pissed off about this book.
Yeah.
And they think it's a fiction book, because all this author has to do is say, oh, my sources told me this and my sources told me that. But like, you don't ever really have to have like a list of like what your sources are to prove to people
No,
like where
'cause you
you're
could
getting
have
this information.
anonymous sources.
Yeah. So they're saying like, and they have a point, like that this book is just trying to make money, and it's a fiction book based. He's a reporter or something. He's a storyteller, but I think that a lot of the points that he's making are, I mean, he clearly like has researched and been involved in this case and knows a lot about it. So it just was, I could see it from both perspectives.
Well, he also said that he was able to go out to the scene and everything before. I mean, we know now that they had a suspect in mind pretty quickly, but for us as the public, we didn't know this for weeks, right? So he said he was able to go out there in between that time of them publicly saying they had a suspect, and was able to just get so much information from that and from people around him and everything. He was also saying that like his own family was suspicious of his behavior. His sister was suspicious of his behavior. Like, you have to think about things like that. When your own family thinks you could be involved in this horrific thing.
There was too much lining up. There was just too much lining up. And the fact that the car, I mean, like,
Yeah.
the car was like a big thing on top of just like so happening to live there and stuff. Like, it's just there. And like, listen, like, if that dude did this, which I mean, his DNA was there, so it's like, I don't know how much more evidence you need as far as that goes, but if this dude did this, like, he probably, and this is like the students in his class and stuff, like, he gives off a creeper vibe. He looks
Yeah.
scary as
He's
shit.
very
Like,
scary.
I've already said that, but there's his family knows that too. You know what I mean? It's like, nobody's, if you do interview people like Jeffrey Dahmer's parents and stuff like that, it's like everybody that knows these people are going to be like, yeah, I could see that he was like a little weird or something. I don't know. I don't buy it that like that they were completely shocked about this, to be honest.
I do think it's a little early to be putting out a book about this crime because it didn't even happen 2 years ago. But I understand this guy, if he's been researching and being involved in the investigation this whole time, that he wants to get his theories out there before the trial so he could kind of like prove everything he's been learning this whole time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, I mean, it's genius on his perspective. I mean, the thing is, there's like this gag order with this case, right? So they don't really talk about much more than we just keep talking about the facts, because they don't release so much of the information. So I think because it's such a shocking murder, the public has like an interest and they really just want more details. And he feels that he was able to get more details from all the interviews that he did and stuff. So I could see why he felt the need to put out the book. But I mean, the poor families that are just dealing with this constantly in the news. It's like every day there's something in the news about it, and just trying to be a human and get over something horrible like this happening to one of your kids, and not really having knowing that it's true facts, because he's talking about a lot of stuff. Like the other girl got she got a new car and she went to visit, and he's saying, well, she went there because of this and this, and like, as a parent, if that was my kid, I'd be like, yo, because that's what the conclave said. They were like, he didn't even interview us. So he's getting this story from other people, but he didn't actually interview any of them, who are the victims' families, right? To get the most accurate information. So, but maybe he wasn't allowed to because of the gag orders and stuff. I'm not sure.
You don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably going to read it because I'm just interested to see what he has to say.
Yeah, I mean, I am too. I think it's super, it's interesting. And when you don't tell us, like, we got to get our information elsewhere, kind of, you know?
Yeah, so the book's called When the Night Comes Falling by Howard Blum. So it came out Tuesday, so it's out already. But all right, so Saturday morning, police responded to what they just believed was, a typical car crash scene on the highway. Crashes happen every day. I'm sure they're very used to going to scenes like this. When they got there, the driver was being helped by another person that happened to witness the crash. So they start looking in the car and find this deceased person that was wrapped up in a bedsheet blanket and a futon-style mattress and a tarp that clearly did not die as part of the car crash and was already cold to touch when they got there, obviously. So
it's kind of crazy, right, to think that you're transporting a dead body of someone you killed and you so happen to get in a car accident on the way to doing that.
I mean, I don't think that's that crazy, because if you're taking the steps to kill somebody, you're definitely not in the right state of mind. So I can't imagine driving being like all manic like that.
And it was on the Interstate 90, right? So it's like, is that what is it an interstate? Well, whatever. It's
Yeah.
the Highway 90. And just think, like, we just drove on the 80 and I'm like, oh, so some of the cars driving by me like might have had a dead body in the back. I don't know. It's just like so crazy to think about it. And I mean, obviously, like, the person, they had an injury to their neck. It looks like their carotid artery was sliced, to be specific, actually. So this woman sliced someone's neck and did this and was like on the way to do whatever with the body.
No, it's weird. I just watched that episode of Deadwood last night where that guy cuts the throats of all those women, in the one brothel.
I haven't seen it in like 15 years, dude.
But you claim it's one of your favorite shows ever. And
It is, but I saw it 15 years ago. Like,
all right, never mind.
I just remember when I watched it, I loved it. I don't remember each scene. Like, if I watch it, I'll be like, oh, okay, cool.
Never mind.
Do tell. There's other people probably remember it.
There's an episode where first of all, I want to say this happened a lot in the 90s and the early 2000s, or early aughts, as some people say, where there was an actor in season 1 that killed Wild Bill, right? And he always had all this mud all over his face. So he kills Wild Bill and then he gets killed. So then starts season 2 and the same actor is totally different character.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm like, this would never happen today. People are too on top of stuff. But anyway.
By the way, like, the real Deadwood, I went there a couple months ago and it was kind of a disappointment.
Why was it a disappointment?
It just was like a total tourist trap. It was just, I mean, the actual street was cool just to say, like, okay, this is what the show's based on and this happened here. And the town is just really pretty in South Dakota. But it was like a tourist trap. It just was a bunch of cheesy gift shops and bars, and not even good bars and not even good restaurants. It just was like,
well, did they have good tchotchkes?
No, not really. Like, we went to this place called Mount Roosevelt, which was super cool because apparently President Roosevelt was friends with Wild Bill, and he had this monument made for him when he died called Mount Roosevelt, and it was on top of this mountain, and it was kind of like a lighthouse looking thing, and when you were on top of that mountain, you could look down at the grave site of Wild Bill and also Calamity Jane. Like, you could see it from this mountain. But of course, Gabe made us climb up this mountain, and it was like I just wasn't prepared. I wasn't wearing like any kind of, I was just wearing normal people shoes and not ready to climb a mountain for 45 minutes. But that part was cool. I don't want to tell him that I enjoyed it because I just was pissy the whole time. But but yeah, the Deadwood itself, it's kind of like,
If we get invited to CrimeCon Denver, fingers crossed, we're gonna go to this restaurant we went to that was one of the oldest restaurants in Colorado, the oldest liquor license in Colorado, but they have a lot of Roosevelt's taxidermy there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and they have Annie Oakley's gun. They had really cool stuff. They had JFK's fishing license. Like, you would definitely like a lot of the stuff they had in there. But we'll have to go.
Sounds cool.
But yeah, the episode, just really quick, the guy just like was at one of the brothels and then slit some of the girls' throats. So I don't often see those crimes happening in the news. So it was interesting that it lined up, that I watched that last night and we cover this today. But
I mean, it gets the job done for sure.
Yeah.
All right, medical news.
All right, so there's controversial events popping up all over the country called Fat Beach Day.
Yeah, this is part of the body positivity movement to have days where people feel like they're accepted and included with their beach bods that are not traditional beach bods. I kind of like, I'm like against the whole like healthy at any size movement and stuff like that, but I understand why they're doing this because I feel like, especially with the whole bathing suit situation, if you don't have like a perfect body, being in a bathing suit in front of other people it's just so uncomfortable. So I guess they're setting it up for like people to be like, oh, nobody's looking at me here because we all kind of like don't look like models or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole purpose of it is to try to like, get rid of fat phobic like intentions people have or comments. Somebody was saying in this article that they never realized how much people hated fat people and were so mean to them until they got TikTok, which we all know like TikTok is some of the most vicious people of all time. It's kind of crazy actually how mean people are on there compared to Instagram and everything. But yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? Because I don't go on TikTok. So what like
if
do
you
mean?
think trolls on Instagram are bad, on TikTok, you can be like even more anonymous than you are on Instagram. And I think it is mostly because it's like Gen Z. They are just so ruthless and mean. Like it is unbelievable.
I don't really understand that mentality. Like I do notice that on some of my Instagram posts that people like I'll show it could even be a baby or like an innocent child or an adult, whatever, with like some kind of deformity, and people write like really mean things underneath, which is weird to me because I understand if you look at somebody, either they have a deformity or they're heavy or whatever, and you think it in your head like, oh, that doesn't look great or whatever. Like, why would you ever feel the need to say it out loud, especially to the person? It's just like, what is that? It not only is it hurting them, but it's like not making you a better person. So I just really don't understand it.
We're transitioning into this period of time where like nobody has manners at all anymore and they just say whatever's on their mind. And I do think it's like strictly connected to having social media and everything because, everybody is bolder when they're behind a keyboard, right? Like you might say something to somebody on Facebook, even that in person, that you would never say to them face to face. And it's just this horrible thing. And then you add the level of like, you can be anonymous on most of these apps. So you can just say the meanest thing ever. Like we're no angels, right? Like we've talked shit on people in our life and everything like that. But you have to have that thing in your brain that's like, this is okay as a private thought. And this is okay to say out loud. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
Yeah, like you I go on Facebook, whatever, for my town even, and people like post the dumbest shit, and you just want to write, like you feel like your first instinct is to be like, you're a moron or whatever, right? But like just say it and scroll on, like what in your head. I mean, like why would you just
exactly
insult? Like I just don't really understand that, but. So I feel like that's why they feel that way, because is that what's happening? Like people are taking pictures of people on the beach and like posting them and like making fun of them and stuff?
Yes, exactly. So it's like
why?
Not only are like heavier people, people are like posting just pictures of like them doing stuff that everybody does, like going out with friends or being on the beach. And then people are so mean online telling them that they don't like the way they look. And this is why people are so insecure, because even if like, this goes on all sides. It's like for people that are overweight and people that are too thin, you can't win, because in public opinion, people have to comment on something, and it's just such a sick way to live anymore.
Yeah, but I don't like that. So
I do like the idea that they can go to the beach and be around a bunch of people that all look the same, so they can actually like go and feel comfortable.
But I guess my question is like, what is there like? You have to check in the door and weigh a certain amount or look a certain way. Like it's kind of.
No, I think it's just like, I don't know. I think it's just encouraging like everybody should go on this day and kind of get together and just hang out and everything. when you should feel like that you could go any day of your life, not worry that.
I mean, it's a shame, but I guess this is like where we're at now.
Yeah, we shouldn't be worrying about people taking pictures of us and posting them on the internet and making fun of us. It's just, we just live in such a horrible time. It's like unbelievable. This next one is like a total waste of tax dollars. We just always get into these cases. So this federal appeals court had to hear arguments about whether or not Geico should pay out a woman who contracted HPV while having sex with her partner in the car because he knew he had it, didn't tell her, and they had sex anyway, and then she ended up getting it.
And she's trying to sue the car insurance. So, as soon as I read this case, I was like, okay, this woman now has like a boyfriend who's in law school. There's always like these lawsuits that you're like, oh, this is worded weird, and we're going to be able to get around this because they don't have it worded correctly or something. And that's what it sounds like a law student trying to like, they do it like, oh, Taco Bell doesn't put enough meat in their tacos. Those like stupid ass lawsuits.
Like who's taking on this case is my question.
So some slimeball.
She's suing Geico, saying they deserve to pay her a car insurance payout because it's the same as getting like bodily injury in a car accident. To which they're like, no, it's nothing like that, and we're not paying you out. And the court also, they sided with Geico the first time, and now this is going through an appeals court. It's ridiculous.
The thing is that if you just aside from the car situation, you say you got this STD from this guy in 2014, you would really have to prove that you didn't have sex with anybody for like a long time around that.
Also, that was the only time they had sex.
I don't know. But and like let's first start off by saying that she had sex in a 2014 Hyundai Genesis, a Hyundai, right? Like, okay, that's real classy right there, right? And what did you think was going to happen when you were having sex in a Hyundai? I don't know. But she claims that she got HPV. Now, this is another part of the story that's kind of weird. So if she got HPV in 2014, she certainly, that was 10 years ago, she wouldn't have got cancer unless she never got pap tests done to check. So that's another aspect of the story because apparently from what I got from the story, she has full-blown cancer and it has spread to her brain. And so which means she has stage 4 cancer. And I don't even know if that's accurate because like 2% of people that have cervical cancer, it spreads to their brain.
And would it happen that fast?
It's a very rare cancer now. Yeah, I mean, it could, but it's a very rare cancer to get anyway. And then on top of that, it's like super rare for it to spread to the brain. And you wouldn't get stage 4 cervical cancer if you were going to your annual appointments. So there's just like a lot more to this story than that. And just to pinpoint it on that event, like what were you doing in 2014? Who were you having sex with? Who the hell remembers? I don't know. Like,
listen, I don't know. I think this is such a waste of tax money of the U.S. justice system. I think there's so many other problems going on in this country that like, is this lady serious? And I agree with you. She probably is in touch with somebody in law school that's like, there's this loophole. I'm going to try to work it out and make my career and all this stuff. I don't see what established lawyer would possibly take this on.
Yeah. Well,
it seems like a giant waste of time.
There's always somebody to take something on. All right. Other death news.
So I had a friend in high school that worked at Goodwill, and he was always saying people would, put like disgusting stuff in the drop-off box. Like they would drop off a box that they would get out of their grandma's basement or something, but there'd be like food in it that was rotten, or they'd have like used panties. Just really gross stuff.
So like people think it's a trash can and they just whatever's in their car, like the trash bags that have the stuff for Goodwill, and then they're like, oh, you know what, I have like old McDonald's in here, so let me throw that in there too, or something.
Exactly. And like, real people have to sort through all of this stuff. It's not like it's going through a machine. So I kind of don't understand why this person found human bones and decided to give it to Goodwill instead of calling the police.
Yeah, this guy was on a hike and found human bones, put them in a box, and then put them in the Goodwill box. And I don't know either. I mean, they eventually found the guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I found them."
First of all, he was going on a hike at 10 o'clock at night. So that's shady in itself, don't you think? Like, who just hikes that late at night?
Maybe he works day shift or something.
I don't know.
or-
I think
I
it's
don't-
bizarre. And then he finds all these bones. 2 of them were animal bones, but the rest of them were human bones, which he said he knew that they were, and went and got a box, collected them all, and then dropped them off at Goodwill. Like, why wouldn't you bring them to the police department?
So you think that he's involved?
I don't know if he's involved necessarily. I just think it's a weird detail that maybe should not be ignored fully.
They were saying that it looks like that they were there for a couple years, but yeah, like I don't know. Like, if you didn't have any intentions on bringing them to the police, why didn't you just leave them there and like have a nice day?
Exactly. It seems more guilty that you're caught on a surveillance camera dropping a box of human bones off at a Goodwill drop box than just reporting it, or like you said, if you saw them and you were scared about getting in trouble, just leave them where they are. Somebody else will find them if you found them. So it was definitely a weird one. I don't know. I'm not saying he's involved. I'm just saying they should maybe not totally throw those details to the side.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. On to question of the day. Every Friday at the @MotherKnowsDeath Instagram, we put a little story up with a question box, and you guys can ask whatever you want. Forgive my pronunciation of this, but you have this in front of you as well. What autoimmune disorder causes recurrent aphthous ulcers?
Aphthous ulcers. So that's just, when you get those annoying, like, they're canker sores in your mouth.
Why couldn't
They're
we
like
have
an
just
ulcer.
called this cankers?
You could have, I guess. But who asked this question? I know it was Laura.
It was Laura, one of our best friends.
Yes. So she has to make things more difficult as
Yeah.
usual. No. But so Bouchette's is a syndrome that could cause you to have mouth ulcerations along with other things which I don't think you have that, Laura. I mean, maybe, you never know. Really, I want to tell you that you should just go to your doctor and get tested and don't take my advice on this. I'm just telling you different things that you could have if you had a lot of ulcers. Because I know, like, Laura has she always has mouth ulcers. And I'm like, dude, you got to get that checked out, because sometimes when you get them all the time, it could be a sign of other things like autoimmune diseases, GI disorders like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, because you have to remember your mouth is the first part of your GI system. So if you have conditions where you can get ulcerations in the lining of the small intestine and stuff, you also can get them in your mouth. It could be a sign of some kind of vitamin deficiency, like iron deficiency, B12, or folic acid. And then also, Maria especially had this when she was a teenager. Remember, you used to get like these ulcers when you would get your period, or like right before you got them. Remember when we
In my mouth?
Yeah, you had one that was like a weird color,
No.
and then the dentist was like, "Oh, that's just like a hormonal thing."
No, so like this rarely happens now, but when I was a teenager, all my gums would get really puffy, and then the roof of my mouth would get, I don't even know if they said it was an ulcer, like it would like pop out. It was very
it
weird.
just like really inflamed. So they've tied hormonal things to these ulcers as well. So that could have something to do with it. And that's something I did forget to ask you, Laura, was that because it is like 25 to 50% of people that get them have a family member that also has an increased susceptibility to getting these ulcers. So my best advice would be to just like go get some blood work done.
All right. Have you ever gone to a crime scene?
Yes, I have.
How
Several.
many?
I don't know. I didn't really count a lot of them. I went to different ones because at the medical examiner's office, they're just called scenes. Like you would go.
Yeah, because you don't really know what it is all the time, right? It doesn't necessarily mean
so
a crime
I
had
mean,
occurred.
you get. I mean, sometimes it's obvious, but other times it's not obvious. But I've been to other, homicides, suicides, accidents.
Because you went to one, right, that was a suicide, so that's not considered a crime scene, right?
But it's a scene that we have to collect evidence and we had to take photos, collect evidence, interview the people. That was like the weirdest part of it, honestly. Like this woman found her husband like shot himself in the head, and he was upstairs in the bedroom, and we're in her row house in Philly, you know, and go downstairs, and I mean, she called the cops. The cops get there, the medical examiner gets there. So this is all like within an hour or two of us going downstairs and her being in like frantic kind of and upset in the living room, and then us having to go talk to her. And I'm like not into that at all, you know? And I
Yeah.
was only a student, so it was just like super awkward. I was with Ken though, and he's just like was very matter of fact with people. And I mean, when you do that for your job, like whatever, but
So when you go as the medical examiner's office, like what are you doing exactly?
so we had to, you know, take a bunch of pictures of what the scene looked like and how he was laying, just because if it was, I mean, just because she called and said he shot himself doesn't mean that he did,
Yeah.
right? So you just have to make, I mean, the weapon was still in his hand, honestly, when we got there. It was a revolver. And it just was, you know, taking pictures of the blood spatter on the wall and just all of that stuff. The body will go to the medical examiner's office, but that was something, actually, in that case, I think that the police brought the body there, but they put his body in a body bag and then brought him down the steps, and then the sheets had, and the pillow and stuff had like chunks of his brain and bone and blood all over the place. And we were like, Kent was like, all right, let's go. And I was like, wait, like, we can't leave this here right now. His wife is downstairs. Like, she cannot see this. And he's like, oh, that's not our job. Like, they have to call a crime scene cleanup police to come clean this.
We should
And
try
I'm
to
like-
get crime scene cleaners on here.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm just like, we can't just like roll up the sheets and put them in the body bag with the dude. Like, he, you know what I mean? Like, I personally would have,
Well,
if I was in charge, I would have cleaned it all like up as much as possible, because I imagine like seeing that.
yeah, but at the same time, like if they don't know it's confirmed a suicide, right? Like they still have to
No,
investigate.
I mean, that it was done after that.
Okay.
That's it. Like, we did all the pictures, we did everything, and then they're like, all right, call somebody to come clean this up. Like, we're done here.
Yeah.
It's so nuts to me, like, to think, I mean, personally, if that was me, I would just shut the door and not look in the room. But you know what I mean? Like, somebody's going to see that. It's just disturbing. So, yeah, I went on like a bunch of really screwed up stuff like that.
All right, last. What's the best gift each of us have ever received?
I don't know. What about you?
Not your children?
No, that's like a dumb answer.
I'm just joking. It's hard because from Ricky, I would say the first year we were dating, he got this like custom Fran Drescher jacket made for me, and we had been going out for 6 months, and I was like, wow, this dude actually really likes, because he did something so cool and took something I really liked and like made me a really unique, one of a kind gift, and I still have it, and I used to wear it all the time, but I'm actually like scared of it getting ruined, so I just kind of keep it in my closet because I love it so much. And then from you, I mean, you get me good stuff all the time. It's hard to even pick.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. Like, I feel like from Gabe, like my is your engagement ring a gift?
Now, I wouldn't say it's a gift. Like, it's not your fault that he gave it to you after you.
Yeah, but that was nice, because that was surprise. Like, I was really surprised about that. I had no idea, and I liked that. And it was something that I definitely really, because I don't really want anything. Like, everything that I want, I just buy myself. But that was something that I wanted, but like I wasn't gonna buy myself. So that was like nice. I like that. And he got me that banner for our office, which is super cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a surprise too. So I mean, like, I get good gifts all the time. You get me good, like, you make me cool gifts all the time and stuff. Like, I don't know. It just,
Yeah, like
I don't really like getting gifts, honestly. I'm more of a giver than a receiver.
yeah, like you drew me that cheesecake from Golden Girls one year for Christmas, and it's so cool. I have it in my living room. Like I like handmade gifts like that. I think they're really cool. And everybody
I
in our
do too.
family
I
is
just
creative.
don't really yeah, like but you're better. Like you do like embroidery and stuff. I don't really I'm like a I don't know what kind of a crafter you would call me, but like I just do things myself. I'm not sure that anybody else would really like it as a gift.
You know what I should post a picture of is I bought this vintage porcelain wedding cake topper for my wedding
Oh yeah,
cake.
that was fun.
And I brought it to you and I was like, can you just draw a beard on it to make it look like Ricky? And then like 8 hours later, it looked like both of us. Nobody could
Yeah,
believe
I
it.
was like, because I was just like, well, what are you gonna just put a beard on this? Like, I can make this thing look like exactly like you guys. Like, why? You know what I
I'll
mean?
put it up on the story today. Just it really is so impressive. Like you did all the details of like our shoes and my flowers and our tattoos. It was kind of nuts. I have that on my shelf too because I just think it's, people probably don't just have their wedding cake toppers on like display in their house decor, but I think
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
That was fun, and I got out of doing work a day for that. It's like, Maria, you're writing today. I have to do this. I have to paint this wedding topper for 8 hours.
Well, it looked amazing. So thank you guys so much. We will see you next week.
Thanks. See you guys. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.